After 3 years of chasing after my dream girl, I turned around and accepted Sarah, who had quietly loved me for 2 weeks into our marriage. We were still in that newlywed bliss. But the day before our honeymoon, she vanished. I frantically searched for her, only to find her laughing and flirting with a male model. Men are all the same. You have to play it cool first to turn them into your lapdog, and then dump them. So, I let go, letting her supposed deep affection become a joke. But later, she knelt before everyone, begging me to come back with tears in her eyes. The day before our honeymoon, my wife, Sarah, disappeared. On the first day, I anxiously questioned her family and friends, but got nowhere. On the second day, I tearfully begged the police to open a case, but there were no leads. On the third day, I searched tirelessly, eventually collapsing on the street. It was Sarah's friend, Erin, who finally took pity on me and told me the truth. I think she might have gone a white wind in Hong Kong. She mentioned before the honeymoon that she wanted to take a trip there to relax. I immediately bought a plane ticket and rushed to White Wind, only to find Sarah giggling and draped over a male model. Her slender fingers playfully poked at the man's abs, and the private room echoed with women's gasps and cheers. Let me tell you, this model's body is comparable to Ethan's, but after a while, you get tired of it. And after we got married, I found out he was a virgin. He didn't even know how to put on a condom. The group burst into laughter, but Sarah didn't seem embarrassed. She leaned back on the sofa, propped up by the man's body. To think he chased after that bitch Anna for 3 years. That whole untouchable goddess thing in high school was BS. Once you get them, men are all the same. I wasted 5 years liking him. I must have been blind. Someone cautiously asked, I heard Ethan's been looking for you like crazy these past few days. Aren't you going to respond? Sarah curled her lip. He's not worth it. I figured it out a long time ago. Play it cool first, and then you can train him better, turn him into an obedient dog. Don't you think training a person is the same as training a dog? The crowd agreed, and my heart ached with a sharp, stinging pain. Sarah continued, rambling on. Chasing him and having a secret crush was just a whim, who told him that he only had eyes for that woman, Anna, for so many years. I will tease him a bit more before I'll dump him. Marriage can't tie me down. Her expression was full of relief and smugness after holding back for so long, but there was no love in it. But at the time, everyone online was praising her deep love for me, and some even called her my savior, shipping us as a real couple. The day I proposed, we both cried our eyes out. A girl, boldly telling the world that she got what she wanted, her courage made me both touched and regretful. I couldn't bear to see her lose, but in the end, I was the one who lost completely. In this game of love, Sarah was the true master. I stumbled out of the club, a light rain falling on Hong Kong. The streets were mostly empty, the drizzle a quiet backdrop. As soon as I boarded the plane, my head felt heavy, and I drifted into a haze of memories. My sophomore year of college, I met Anna for the first time. She helped me pick up my stall after it had been wrecked by city inspectors, smiling as she handed me a handkerchief. I was instantly smitten. From the first friendly gesture to my eventual confession, I carefully planned every step, desperate to win her over. Before long, everyone knew I was Anna's lapdog. The students at F University watched with amusement, waiting to see how it would all end. A month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, 3 years went by. Anna refused to date anyone, but she also refused to accept my feelings. Just when I was about to give up, she'd encourage me to keep trying, telling me that if I persisted, maybe she'd develop feelings for me. At first, I believed her wholeheartedly, continuing to dote on her, caring for her every need. But then, one day, she looked at me with utter disgust, publicly mocking me for debasing myself. That's when I knew she would never love me. When she finally announced she had a boyfriend, my heart completely broke, and I decided to let go. To forget the past, after graduation, I resolutely decided to pursue my graduate studies in Beijing. It was also raining the night I arrived in Beijing. Sarah rushed over to greet me, beaming. Ethan, I saw the acceptance list for a university. You're on it too. We'll be studying together. The girl's radiant smile was right in front of me. I had never really noticed Sarah, this quiet girl. My only memories of her were from high school. Right before graduation, Sarah had handed me her notes, confessing her secret crush, pouring out her heart in every word. I rejected her outright. I'm sorry, I can't accept this. Sarah, with her pigtails, cried that day, but she forced a smile, took back her notebook, and bowed to me. Okay, but I won't give up. Afterwards, she went abroad to study, sending back interesting trinkets and beautiful gifts every month. I didn't need them, so I had someone return them to her. By my senior year of college, the gift stopped. I thought she had given up, but then she appeared. Outside the airport, she reached up and touched my hair. Ethan, I can wait. Time conquers all. I waited all through middle and high school. I'm not afraid to wait now. Her sincerity and passion made me feel what it was like to be loved, and I gradually started to develop feelings for Sarah. Later, once I realized I was falling for her, I decided to be honest with her. That day, with tears in her eyes, she nestled in my arms and kissed me reverently. Ethan, I've finally waited long enough. I started planning our future. An orphan with no family, I had so little to offer her. That's why I resolutely decided to drop out of grad school in my second year to start a business. I wanted to build a good life for Sarah with my own hands. So, for the next few years, I threw myself into securing investments, working on projects, and attending endless social events. Drinking myself into stomach ulcers became commonplace. Finally, at 28, my company went public, and I hired a drone to propose to Sarah. I thought marriage would be blissful and lifelong. But the reality was that even before our honeymoon was over, she was impatiently seeking out other men. Her actions felt like blades slicing through my heart, tearing away my love for her, piece by piece. Love yourself first before loving others. Anna taught me that lesson, but with Sarah, I forgot. After saving the photos from the club, I returned to our marital home. I gathered up all the wedding decorations and the bed sheets and threw them into the guest room. If Sarah wants to train me like an obedient dog, we'll see how that goes. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, and honestly, not many people would have cared. Inside the villa were boxes upon boxes of gifts she had sent me from college, everything from tiny buttons to large stuffed animals, all neatly packed away. On our wedding day, she had joked, "This is my dowry. It represents all our memories." How ridiculous that seems now. I leaned against the bed, my heart aching with a dull, throbbing pain, Sarah's disdainful expression echoing in my mind. It was just a short while ago she had declared her love for me in front of family and friends, and now those words of contempt and humiliation came so easily. After our engagement, she often documented our daily life and posted it online, sharing our love story with her followers. She smiled at the camera, holding my hand. "Thank you, Ethan, for letting this secret admirer win." So, when did I lose without even realizing it? I took off the wedding ring she had designed herself and placed it in its red velvet box. No matter what, a broken mirror is still broken, and trying to put it back together is just fooling yourself. Lost in thought, the phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. "Is this Mr. Ethan? This is John, Sarah's ex-boyfriend from abroad." He continued, "I'd love to meet up sometime. She always said I didn't measure up to you, so I've always wanted to meet. Now that I'm back in the country, I thought I'd congratulate you on your marriage." Ex-boyfriend? But Sarah had told me she'd never been in a relationship. So, the lies started even back then. "That won't be necessary," I said curtly, hanging up. A bitter taste filled my throat, and tears welled up. The girl who I thought had eyes only for me had dealt me a fatal blow. The next day, I went to work as usual. I pretended to have no idea where Sarah was and sent people to look for her, while I sat in my office, leisurely drinking tea. Her parents and friends weren't worried. So why should I, her husband, be? Just as I was wondering what excuse Sarah would come up with, Anna showed up. She was still as elegant and haughty as she had been in college, but her words were sharp. "Ethan, the wife you so carefully chose doesn't seem to love you that much." She continued, seemingly disdainful, her perfectly made-up face full of smugness. "A good friend of mine saw her at White Wind the other day. Word is, she ordered more than a dozen male models." She appeared scornful. "Ethan, why did you give up so easily back then? You know I love to test people. I was thinking if you had just held on for 2 more years, I would have said yes. But then you went and fell for someone else, and the person I hate the most, no less. So, what exactly are you trying to say, Miss Anna?" Anna paused, a slightly embarrassed smile on her face. Ethan, it wasn't until after you stopped pursuing me that I realized how much you liked me. Now, I'm giving you a chance. All you have to do is divorce that woman, Sarah." I couldn't help but laugh. How'd I never noticed how shameless Anna was before? "Whatever Sarah does is none of your business, Miss Anna. And another thing, don't try to win back a guy who used to be your lapdog with that condescending tone. I chased you for 3 years and failed. I'm not a masochist. Why would I subject myself to that again?" Anna was about to say something else, but security, alerted by the commotion, had arrived. "Get this irrelevant person out of here. Don't let just any riffraff into the company." Anna's face turned pale. "Ethan, you can't do this to me, Ethan." Stomping her high heels, Sarah left. Suddenly, the noisy office became quiet. I pinched the bridge of my nose, feeling utterly frustrated. "Sarah, what excuse will you come up with this time?" When I opened my phone, a friend request from an unknown QQ account popped up. "It's John. Please accept." What a nutcase. I was about to block him when a new message came through. A picture of him and Sarah kissing, right outside the White Wing Club. The timestamp was midnight last night. Fireworks were exploding behind them, like some cheesy backdrop to their love. My heart seized. I knew that pain. It hit me like a truck. I started shaking. I remembered when I proposed. We hugged at sunset, and she snuck a kiss on my cheek while I wasn't looking. Her beautiful eyes reflected only me. My Ethan is so handsome. And now, we were married. I forced myself out of the elevator, and in a daze, I heard a familiar voice. "Ethan, what's wrong? Don't scare me." I opened my eyes to see Sarah's worried face. "Ethan, the doctor said you fainted from stress and exhaustion. I'm so sorry." Tears welled up in her eyes, making her look so vulnerable. Any other day, I would have been a mess, comforting her. "You two, didn't I tell you? You can't earn all the money in the world. Take care of yourself." But the person I'd been desperately searching for, not eating or drinking, hadn't bothered to explain her disappearance. She probably didn't even care. I turned away from her. "I get it. Where have you been these past few days?" I was worried sick. I caught her face pale in my peripheral vision. She gave a nervous laugh. "A friend overseas threw a last-minute birthday party. I lost my phone and couldn't call. I came straight here as soon as I landed today. I'm so sorry, Ethan, for making you worry." She looked like a frightened rabbit, her eyes red-rimmed. When I didn't respond, she carefully picked up a bowl of chicken soup and tried to feed me. My stomach lurched. I rushed to the bathroom and started retching uncontrollably. After a while, Sarah's voice came through. "Ethan, are you okay? What's wrong?" She hesitated for a second, then was about to help me back to bed when her phone rang. She rushed out, and a few minutes later, came back looking apologetic. "Ethan, I'm so sorry. Something urgent came up. Get some rest." She seemed to be in a real hurry. In the trash can by the bed were the untouched bowl of chicken soup and a bunch of tissues. She wasn't even trying to keep up appearances anymore, was she? She could change her mind. She could tell me she didn't love me anymore and wanted a divorce. But I hated that she was treating me like an idiot. I had thought if she came clean, we could have an amicable divorce. But she was still trying to brush me off to lie to me. Of course, she wasn't done playing with my heart yet. Why would she give up? Maybe the Sarah I thought I knew never existed. Everything about overseas, the lie about her having a crush on me, all the excuses, maybe it was all just a revenge on me. Was it because I chased after Anna for 3 years that proved I am a sinner, and I embarrassed her? Hours later, John, never tiring of it, sent photo after photo. Sarah dancing provocatively on the dance floor, Sarah nestled in his arms, even screenshots of their steamy, flirtatious chats. "Mr. Ethan, even after all this, you still won't meet me?" John added a taunting emoji. I laughed, furious. "Fine. The coffee shop downstairs from David's, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Don't be late." My knuckles were white from clenching my phone, but a question nagged at me. Was John doing this just to provoke me? Or did he have an ulterior motive? Sure enough, there was John, leisurely sipping his coffee. His features resembled mine, though he was slighter in build. "I've heard so much about you, Mr. Ethan. It took quite a bit of effort to get you here. Not an easy feat. I'll get straight to the point. I love Sarah, but I hate that she treats me like a substitute for you. We had a fight a few years ago, and that's when she went back home. She was into you years ago, sure, but now? Who knows?" I chuckled softly. "And what standing do you think you have to say this to me, mister? John? The other man? The ex-boyfriend? This is utterly ridiculous. I stood to leave, but John slammed his hand on the table. The one who isn't loved is the other man. Besides, Sarah's first time was with me. His voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough. But on our wedding night, when I touched her, she was clearly. I froze, my legs suddenly heavy as lead. I should have realized when I found out Sarah had hidden the fact that she had been in a relationship before. John, in front of me, burst into laughter, leaning close to my ear. You probably guessed, didn't you? She had her hymen repaired. I know all about it. And you, her husband, were apparently kept in the dark. In an instant, it felt like all the blood rushed to my head, and the tightly wound string in my heart snapped. I don't know when John left. I only vaguely remember the smug look in his eyes, like a sharp blade piercing my heart. I paid the bill, but my wrist was suddenly grabbed. Ethan, your taste is really... How could you fall for that slut, Sarah? I yanked my hand away from the woman. It's none of your business. Are you obsessed with me or something? Anna's gaze darkened. I just want to ask, why did you stop pursuing me and choose that woman, Sarah? What does she have that I don't? I let out a choked laugh. Anna, she wasn't there when Sarah and I first got together, now appears after the marriage like some presence I am supposed to acknowledge. I looked up, a smirk playing on my lips. Ms. Anna, you should mind your own business. Ethan, will never forgive anyone who has hurt me. I remember how you humiliated me back then, Ms. Anna. Have you forgotten, now that you're older? The woman's face flushed with anger, her expression sour. I ignored her and walked straight out. Whether it was Sarah or Anna, I would never forgive anyone who had hurt me. That night, Sarah went to the hospital, only to find I'd already been discharged. She pouted all the way home. Ethan, why didn't you tell me you were getting out? Are you still mad at me? She nestled into my arms, laughing, the scent of her perfume overwhelming. Don't be mad, okay? I really was busy. I'll make it up to Ethan tonight. She reached for my belt buckle, but I suppressed my disgust and pulled away from her touch. I'm just really tired from being discharged. Let's just rest tonight. I'm not mad. She seemed skeptical, staring at me for a long moment before softening her voice. Okay, then wait for me, Ethan. I'll make you some congee. You didn't seem to like the chicken soup last time, so I threw it out. This time, I'm going to take really good care of you, and you can taste my cooking. She bustled off to the kitchen, as if to prove her concern for me. But it was John who had called her away a few days ago, not some girlfriend. Remembering the photos my assistant had given me, I felt a spasm of pain. If Sarah wanted to put on an act, then I would play along. I picked up the notebook on my desk and started writing one word at a time. I'd enjoyed keeping a record of our daily life ever since Sarah and I had gotten together. Sometimes I'd write a lengthy entry every few days, sometimes every few weeks. I'd put the entries from the first few years in the cabinet under the bookcase in the study, and the ones from the past year were in the bedroom drawer. I deliberately put them there, imagining Sarah's surprise when she found them. But now, a year later, the notebook remained unopened. Never mind, I had to keep up the charade. I tightened my grip on the pen and wrote cheerfully. Sarah made congee for me. I'm so happy, but my body feels awful. But it's really great to have Sarah with me. But someone claiming to be Sarah's ex-boyfriend came to see me. I don't know him. He seems to have some ulterior motive towards Sarah. After I finished writing, I deliberately coughed loudly, causing Sarah to rush out, concerned. Ethan, are you okay? I shook my head weakly. I'm fine, it's just a common cold. I'm not hungry. Go get some rest. I don't want you getting hurt while cooking. Sarah relaxed at my words and gently leaned against me, falling asleep shortly after. After she fell asleep, I saw on her phone screen that she had canceled an order for congee from a porridge shop. The kitchen was spotless. She'd probably forgotten that she'd never cooked before. How could someone who didn't even know where the rice was make congee? I put the notebook away and lay down fully clothed, shivering in the moonlight. For the next few days, I ignored Sarah, and she didn't bother with me either. I made the first move, calling her. Sarah, should we take a trip for our honeymoon? We couldn't go before because you were out of the country, but I've been so busy lately. Why don't you plan it? On the other end of the line, Sarah was taken aback at first, then burst out laughing. Okay, honey, I've been wanting to go on a trip for a while now. This is perfect. Sarah began feverishly making preparations, from the small daily necessities to the itinerary and plane tickets. She snuggled up to me, cooing sweetly. Ethan, I'm so happy. You're so good to me. Let's go to that little island in the Pacific. It's so beautiful. Sarah went on and on about her plans, but I caught a glimpse of a large red mark on her chest. She didn't even bother to hide it anymore. I record everything in my daily notes, from the smallest details of life to the honeymoon gifts. Sarah is really putting in the effort. This honeymoon will be our most cherished memory. It's too early now, but in a couple of years, we'll start trying for a baby. We'll have a lovely child in the future. I'll always be by Sarah's side. A few days later, John couldn't contain himself and posted an update. Who says broken mirrors can't be whole again? My love is already by my side. He included a picture of them holding hands, and many people commented with congratulations. At the end, he added a picture of a hotel key card, the meaning obvious. Sarah, who had been playing on her phone by the bed, lowered her head and smiled. I could feel her sneaking glances at me, a hint of guilt in her eyes. After a while, she came over and sat on my lap. Ethan, my best friend, has a fever. I need to go take care of her. I won't be able to stay with Ethan tonight. She seemed very apologetic, repeatedly kissing my lips. After she left, I wiped my mouth, disgusted, and followed her in my car. She soon arrived at a hotel. I sat in the lobby, trying to give myself one last chance to reconsider. 1 hour, 2 hours. Sarah still hadn't come out, and my heart sank bit by bit. Finally, I went to the door, ready to knock, when I heard a man's panting and a woman's unrestrained moans. It was Sarah's voice. John, be gentle. Gentle? Sarah, who's better, me or your husband? You, of course. He barely touched me. Not like you, John. The sounds of their passionate encounter grew louder. I clenched my fists. If I could have deceived myself before, now I had witnessed Sarah and John in bed together. The green hat was firmly placed on my head. Around dawn, Sarah quietly returned. After showering, she hugged me from behind. Feeling the warmth behind me, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. After sleeping with another man, she comes back and sleeps embracing her husband. Doesn't she find that disgusting? She shook me awake and snuggled comfortably into my arms. Ethan, don't sleep yet. Here's what I'm thinking. We'll have a baby next year, and then we'll be a happy family. For now, let's just enjoy the moment. And about that island we went on our honeymoon, I picked it out so carefully. Could Ethan buy it for me? It's only $300 million. It's not hard for you. I looked up at the greedy Sarah. So, she came back in the middle of the night just to get me to spend money on an island? I lowered my gaze and closed my eyes. I'll look into it tomorrow. It's late, let's go to sleep. Sarah pouted, but hugged me even tighter. My disappointment in Sarah grew deeper and deeper. I now eagerly anticipated the day of our divorce and Sarah's reaction. The day before their honeymoon, John came to see me again. He wasn't as arrogant as last time. His eyes were downcast, and his expression was unreadable. Mr. Ethan, why haven't you and Sarah gotten a divorce yet? She told me she'd divorce you after the honeymoon, but I can't wait. I'm warning you. Don't you dare go near Sarah. I smirked. Mr. John, you're worrying too much. Are you afraid Sarah will change her mind? Seems like you're not too confident in yourself. Bullshit. You're just a scheming bastard, and I'm worried Sarah will go soft on you. Wouldn't her divorcing me be exactly what you want? After all those pictures you sent, it wasn't for nothing. The man nodded smugly. But for now, you're still the other man, threatening me, her husband, in public. Sarah doesn't know about that, does she? John suddenly went silent. I knew you wouldn't dare tell her. But it doesn't matter. A whore and a third wheel are a perfect match. I got up unconcerned, and my bodyguard stepped in front of the furious John. Inside the car, I stared silently at a photo of Sarah and me. Just months ago, we were so in love. I tossed the photo out the window, but a hand caught the frame. Anna's eyes were red, her beautiful eyes filled with sadness. Ethan, Sarah's openly cheating on you with John, and you still won't divorce her? I froze for a moment. It's none of your business. I started the car, but Anna frantically banged on the window. Ethan, after everything she's done to you, you still can't let go? Compared to that tramp Sarah, what am I lacking? I couldn't help but retort. Miss Anna, when you called me shameless and pathetic, you didn't tell me what you were lacking either, did you? Anna's eyes instantly turned red, filled with pain. But Ethan, I regret it. I shouldn't have treated you like that. You were so good to me back then, and I took it for granted. Give me another chance, please? I'm begging you, Ethan. The past. I was momentarily stunned. Suddenly, a familiar screeching voice cut through the air. Ethan, what are you doing? High heels clicked rapidly as Sarah furiously pulled Anna away. She turned to me. Ethan. Sarah, let go of me. You whore. Married to Ethan and still cheating on him. Don't think I don't know you and John are at it again. Sarah's face turned white. She looked back at me in terror, shaking her head repeatedly. Ethan, I didn't. Trust me, I don't know John. Ethan. Get a rest. Stop pretending. Everyone in our circle knows John is your ex-boyfriend. Only Ethan doesn't know, you liar. Anna shoved Sarah away disdainfully, then turned to me with a pleading look. Seeing that I remained silent, she finally sighed, her words full of sincerity. Fine, Ethan. Believe me, those two are really having an affair. No matter what, I'll wait for you. After Anna left, Sarah hung her head and got in the car. She clutched my sleeve tightly and burst into tears. Ethan, I'm sorry. John is my ex-boyfriend. I shouldn't have lied. I was just afraid you'd misunderstand. Ethan, please believe me, she pleaded. I broke up with him a long time ago. Ethan, you know that. Sarah's eyes were red-rimmed, her once perfect makeup smeared, giving her a tear-streaked, woeful appearance. I'm sorry. I closed my eyes, my already battered heart aching even more. Even now, Sarah wasn't willing to be honest? Let's leave it at this for now. I need some time alone. The honeymoon is off. I rubbed my temples, pulling away from her touch. Sarah froze for a moment, then started crying even harder. She frantically tried to kiss me, as if to prove her sincerity. Please believe me, Ethan. You're still mad at me, but there's really nothing going on between him and me. But Sarah, why did you lie to me? I threw the document envelope from the back seat at her. You even hid the hymenoplasty from me. Why? If you had just told me before the wedding, I wouldn't be this angry. Her crying stopped abruptly. She fumbled with the envelope, picking it up, the pictures and the doctor's detailed account. The results had been in for a while, I just hadn't dared to look. That day, after returning from the hotel, I opened this heavy envelope for the first time. The evidence of the hymenoplasty was clearly laid out, and my heart completely sank. The car fell into a dead silence. Finally, Sarah looked up, her voice filled with anguish. Ethan, when did you find out? I started to suspect a few days ago when I saw the evidence. And now it's confirmed, isn't it? Sarah's face was ashen. She couldn't utter a word. A strange sense of relief washed over me. Since Sarah and I had already shown our true colors to each other, I wasn't going to play along anymore. I quickly filed for divorce, presenting the evidence I had gathered. Sarah stopped me. Ethan, do we really have to get a divorce? I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have lied to you. I'm sorry. She cried pitifully, and people passing by started pointing at me. But you betrayed me first, didn't you? Do you still want a broken marriage? You lied to me, saying your best friend had a fever that night, but actually you guys went to a hotel. I hate lies, and you lied to me again and again. Her lips moved, her voice hoarse. Ethan, we can go back. You know, I only lied because I was afraid of disappointing you. Please, let's not get divorced. I had a crush on you for years before we got married. You always had Anna in your heart. Do you know how much that hurt me? So, Sarah, were you getting revenge on me or on Anna? Sarah's hand froze. Then she gave a bitter smile. I just couldn't swallow my pride, but I really do love you. Please believe me. She pulled out our wedding ring like it was a treasure, trying to put it on my finger. Ethan, look, this is our wedding ring. I've been wearing it all this time. I was wrong. We've only been married for 2 months. We promised to grow old together. Yes, but that was a long way off. I shook off Sarah's hand. She was about to chase after me, but suddenly stopped. She hurriedly hailed a taxi and sped off. Looking at the ring she'd shoved into my hand, a sense of absurdity washed over me. Ethan, don't be soft. Later, I found out from Aaron that John had jumped into the river, and that's why Sarah had left in such a hurry. It just proved that John would always be more important to her than me. After arranging everything at the company, I felt a bit lost. The company I'd worked so hard to build for years was now fully managed by a proxy. Whether Sarah wanted a divorce or not, she would leave with nothing. Then, my old professor called again. Ethan, are you sure you won't consider helping me? This project is perfect for you. I hesitated to answer. Before the wedding, He had called, asking if I was interested, and I had laughed it off. A businessman doing academic research? Isn't that ridiculous? But you were a master's student, if it weren't for life. Ethan, think about it. As a favor to your old professor. His earnest request echoed in my ear. He was my graduate advisor and also my undergraduate professor. From my freshman year to my second year of graduate school, from Shanghai to Beijing, I thought I would follow him in research, but in the end, I changed my mind. After I dropped out in my second year, all the projects I had been involved in were affected, more or less. But my professor never blamed me. He mostly advised me to think things through. At that time, I was so determined. For Sarah, for a better life, starting a business was much more lucrative than research. But now I was truly hesitant. I wanted to live for my own dreams. After careful consideration, I agreed. Great. I knew you'd agree sooner or later. It was just a matter of time. His booming voice came through the phone, and the weight on my heart lifted. But you have to work hard. You have to go back to grad school now. Don't let your younger classmates laugh at you. Yes, the familiar voice was the same as years ago, and now I had the ability to pursue my unfinished dream. Sarah refused to get a divorce, and she especially refused to leave with nothing. But faced with solid evidence of her infidelity, the court ultimately ordered the divorce. Sarah waited for me at the entrance of our residential complex, looking gaunt. The woman who always cared so much about her appearance wasn't wearing any makeup. Ethan, why did it have to end like this? She asked, grabbing my arm and bursting into tears. Sarah, was there any other way we could have gotten divorced? I'm capable of long-term commitment, but I can also be ruthless. And what about you? I pulled away from Sarah, ready to leave, when her demeanor suddenly shifted, or, more accurately, her true colors came out. Let me tell you something, Ethan, she spat. Divorcing me is your biggest mistake. John is better than you in every way. Even in bed, he's miles ahead of you. Just you wait. Don't come crawling back to me like a dog. I ignored Sarah and what had become of her and John. I needed to focus on studying for my exams and getting into grad school, not getting dragged into more drama with her and Anna. I spread the word that I was going abroad and cut off contact with all our mutual friends, including those I shared with Sarah and Anna. I was accepted into the graduate program at S University, and my research project achieved a breakthrough, receiving national funding. On the day of the academic presentation, I confidently took the stage, speaking at length about the project, the culmination of years of hard work. Leaving the hotel, I unexpectedly ran into John and Sarah, who were tangled up in an argument. Sarah was clinging to John's arm, pleading, John, how could you do this to me? With another woman, in a hotel room? John looked utterly exasperated. Sarah, look at yourself. You've ruined me. I'm bankrupt because of you, and you're still haunting me. I'm telling you, I'm getting a divorce, so you can just pack your bags and get out. John was strong. He shoved Sarah to the ground and, still seething, even kicked her a couple of times. I tried to walk past Sarah, figuring it was best to ignore the situation, but she spotted me. Ethan, you're here? You saw me fall, and you didn't even help me up? Sarah looked at me with tears in her eyes, a deep sadness in their dark depths. I pretended not to hear and turned to leave, but Sarah followed me like a leech. When I started my car, she stood in front of it, daring me to hit her, claiming I wouldn't have the guts. I called security to drag her away. She struggled fiercely, like a wild woman. Seeing that I was completely ignoring her, she furiously kicked the back of my car, calling me a heartless bastard. Later, I heard from a friend that she had married John less than 2 weeks after our divorce. But John was a natural playboy. There was no way he was going to stick with just Sarah. Not only did Sarah have to fight off other women, but she was also treated poorly by John's family because she couldn't have children. Ever since Sarah married into the family, John's business had been going downhill, and after going bankrupt earlier in the year, it had never recovered. Sarah, of course, was desperate to hold on her lifestyle as a wealthy wife, so she tried to control John even more. Their frequent public displays of jealousy and rage made them the laughingstock of their social circle. Sarah's downfall was entirely her own doing. It had nothing to do with anyone else. Not long after encountering Sarah, Anna tracked me down. 3 years had passed, and she was just as I remembered, only with a few more lines of sorrow etched on her face. Ethan, have you been well these past 3 years? Anna's first words were of concern for my well-being. Without you and Sarah complicating things, I've been great. Anna's face paled, and she stammered. Ethan, I'm sorry. I was so selfish before. I've realized that even after 3 years, I still can't forget you. Give me another chance, please. This time, let me chase you. Let me be your puppy. Her eyes were filled with affection when she said this. There wasn't a hint of insincerity. If I hadn't known she was about to marry a man old enough to be her father, I might have actually hesitated for a moment. Impossible, Anna. Just go through with the marriage. Anna's face flushed with a mix of shame and anger. Ethan, listen to me. I really do love you. I really don't want to marry that Wong Lei. He's a lecher, and not only that, he has several illegitimate children. Ethan, you can't just stand by and watch me fall into this pit of fire. I looked at Anna, who was now in tears with scorn. So what? You're begging me, so I'm obligated to help you. An incredulous expression spread across Anna's face. How can you treat me like this? I'm your first love. I scoffed. Anna, stop living in your protagonist fantasy. We have nothing to do with each other. A first love should be quiet like a dead person. Don't bother me again, or you won't like what happens. I would never forgive them, neither Sarah nor Anna. I went to Anna's wedding. Her groom was a greasy, almost 50-year-old man, a stark contrast to Anna, who was forcing a smile. Anna's family gave her 2 choices: marry obediently and live a life of luxury, or be cut off from the family and completely disappear from high society. Anna deluded herself into thinking she could choose a third option, to have money, status, and happiness, using me as a stepping stone. Absolutely not. I was planning to go abroad for an exchange program to continue my academic pursuits, but Sarah was determined to make trouble for me. For several days, I felt like I was being followed. Thinking about the news of Sarah being kicked out of John's family, I had a hunch. I decided to give Sarah an opportunity, because knowing her, she wouldn't give up easily. After the annual charity gala, I left, escorted by my bodyguards. I used the excuse of going to the restroom to get away from the crowd. I knew she wouldn't pass up this perfect chance to kill me. As soon as I entered, she pointed a knife at my throat. Ethan, you forced me to do this. She was about to stab me in the neck, but I leaned back, and the knife plunged into my abdomen instead, blood gushing out. I kicked over a flower pot in the restroom with my left foot. The loud noise immediately alerted the bodyguards outside. They saw Sarah holding a bloody knife, seemingly trying to silence me, while I, covered in blood, had collapsed on the floor. Even as I was being carried onto the ambulance, I was still relatively conscious. I overheard the whispers of the people around me. Isn't that Sarah, the internet celebrity who's famous for being obsessed? Yeah, that's her. And the one being carried onto the ambulance is her ex-husband. She got exposed for cheating, and she still has the nerve to try to kill her ex-husband? How vicious can she be? You said it. You never really know a person. Her ex-husband really had bad luck, getting mixed up with someone like her. Sarah, handcuffed and being taken away by the police, glared at me with a dark expression, cursing me out. But with the facts laid out in front of everyone, who would believe a would-be murderer? Sarah was imprisoned, and she would spend the next few years in jail. She deserved it. The police station relayed that Sarah desperately wanted to see me, but I refused. Sarah and I were from different worlds, and I didn't want any further contact with her. I once abandoned my academic dreams for her, but now I live only for myself. For the rest of my life, I will pursue what I desire and live with a clear conscience.